Hi, everybody. Welcome to We Didn't Turn Out Okay. I'm here with dear friend Daniella Rabbani. She's the host of Mom Curious podcast, which is fabulous.
Thanks. You were like one of the very first
I
to
know.
ever guest. Thank you so much.
We cried. We laughed.
We laughed. We cried. We told some very good stories about how Nell was this miraculous being. Not to mention
Yes.
Tess, obviously.
But
your
that's what
children.
we got emotional about.
Yeah, so beautiful.
And she's also an actress and a filmmaker, a Yiddish songstress. And am I missing anything?
I'm a lot of things.
Yes,
To a lot of
and
people. I'm a mom
mom.
of two. My kids are 8 and 5.5. And that's so crazy because I feel like we really knew each other well, deep. I mean, I worked for you at Union Square Play when my kids they weren't kids, they were babies. Like they were 5 and 2 maybe.
I always forget about that.
And I met you when Ness was a year and a half. It's an interesting thing growing up alongside your contemporaries, and to watch you grow so much.
And it's interesting to grow up with your kids growing up alongside other moms.
I know.
And to avoid confusion, Ness is Daniella's son.
Oh, yeah. Oh, because that rhymes with Tess. Ness actually means miracle.
I love it.
And Tess is just a great name. What does Tess mean?
But even as you're saying Ness, I'm like, wait. And so I'm tripped up a little bit. So
Ness is my oldest. He's 8. He just turned 8. God, I love that kid. I feel like for whatever mom is listening, your work I think probably really resonates with the toddlers also because of the Union Square Play work that you do. But there's this feeling are they gonna still be cute? And I just need you to know that he's 8 years old and he's the squishiest, best. Still cute, you know. I want the toddler moms to know that, the baby moms to know, we could feel there's this ticking time bomb of
I feel that way.
And in some way there is
right,
that we only have them around living in our under the same roof with us for a while, for sure. But there's this feeling oh my gosh, they're squishy baby butts and they're they're toddler voice that'll go away. But it's actually bizarre. It's he's 8 and he's still squishy,
also
and his voice is still delicious, and he's just this little boy that he loves. I don't know. He loves history and math and a lot of sports. I can't get in on that. I just I have to outsource that to my husband. But it's great. And my daughter, Paz, is 5.5, and I feel like she's so obviously still cute. She has this curly hair. She has this squeaky voice. She's just a little baby.
I feel so similarly to that it's maybe less obvious at 7, 8. Maybe. But
I guess to the outside world, it's less obvious.
Right. Right upon if you were to first meet a 7 or 8-year-old, but yes, we know that they are still very much the smushiest, cutest, most vulnerable in for better or worse ways, you know.
Yes, and we were talking earlier about falling asleep with our kids.
Yes,
and I still fall asleep with my kids.
Me too.
And I used to actually when I was a younger mom, when they were younger, I thought, oh God, that's oh, what terrible sleep habits.
Right.
And oh, they're so dependent on me. And there was one moment when Ness was 6.5 where he was I'm done now. You don't have to do anything and I'll go to sleep on my own. And it lasted a few months and I was gutted. When he turned back around and he was Mommy, will you lay down with me? I was yes.
So true. I think that's such an important thing to talk about for a second because we spiral so much when they're young. They'll never sleep on their own. And I don't even know what we think worst case scenario is. Yes, it will penetrate through our marriage that we'll never get to sleep alone. And I get that.
That's real.
That's real. Yes. I have fallen asleep every night this week with my kids. And one night I said to Matt, I was I can't do that. We need to have a life together.
Yeah. I
watch
had
a
a very
movie.
similar conversation with Dan. Like, we should probably pick a show, but I will not be awake for it. Like, we'll
Right,
pick the
but it's
show and
just
you'll have to
like
watch it on your own. But yes,
the act of like it's me and you
I
in
know
our
it's so
bed.
real.
Right.
But on the other hand, it's such a tender, sweet
Right.
experience that I'm kind of okay with it. You
So
know,
am I.
I'm
I
okay
like
with
to
it.
the
We'll have to
point where
find
I feel
another
like
time.
everyone does it, but no. Like one of my best friends is
yeah.
like, you can say you're gonna call me later, but I know you're gonna go to sleep with the girls and you won't. So I'm like, not everyone does that. Like,
Oh, just me and you, I guess.
and it's not like I'm getting into bed with them. It's like, Mommy, will you fall asleep with us? Like until they go to sleep is the
Yeah.
idea. But I mean,
And then it's over.
I'm like a narcoleptic. Like
tired. I was asking you before we started, like how you get it all done. I bet a bunch of people ask you that, and you're narcoleptic because you're so
busy.
productive all day long. You deserve that sleep. You deserve a good cuddle. They're still cuddly at 8 and 5.5. I just need the world to know it. I actually said that on my stories the other day, and someone in her 30s was like, "I'm so cute to my mom," and I'm like, "You're actually really cute." Like,
yes, I love this topic because I think about that too. Like as I'm thinking of my kids getting older, and like I just saw my parents last weekend, and I was like, they must still think I'm cute. But like I'm
really
41,
cute.
like, but I still feel like I'm like
cute to them. Like I walk in and my father goes,
right.
Like he can like really like actually, and we know that feeling where like, oh, you can breathe. There's like a sigh of relief, the pride. Like there's just more oxygen when you see your child, you know. And I'm his baby. That's a real thing.
Yes, thank God we can know that will continue, even if it changes shapes and forms. Like they'll always be our babies and smushy and all of that. But in terms of like the sleep, I wanted you to like kind of share. So do you do what I do, where it's like, yes, they want you to fall asleep with them, but do they share a room? Like,
okay, so they share a room, but Paz will fall asleep in my bed, and then we move her to her bed.
Right,
and
it's a whole like musical bed.
Oh, musical beds, yeah. Also, by the way, we have changed their beds so many times. Like, okay, so like, there was like the bassinet, there was the crib, there was a bunk bed for a little bit.
That's where we're at.
Then there were. I share this because I know people are just like, they feel so stuck, or they feel like. I remember one time my friend realized like, oh, my child is not ready for the big girl bed, and then she had to go back to the crib, and like she just felt like such a failure, and like that would be projected on the kid. And I'm just like, sometimes the beds work and sometimes they don't work, and sometimes it's just your bed, and it's okay.
Yes,
I think it's okay.
Yes, I really, really do. And let's lean into that a little bit. We both started out as believers in respectful parenting, which, for people who don't know, there is an actual term, RIE. Yeah. Resources
resources for infant educators.
Yes.
Educators.
And Daniella and I have bonded over that.
You're certified in RIE?
I have one more foundations course. It's taken me years, which if anyone is interested, it's a big commitment to do, but so worth it. But I don't want to suggest taking years to do it, but like they know that we all have jobs and we might be a parent. And so, yes, a foundations course is 7 days. It might not be easy to just pick up and do. There's virtual components. Anyway, my last one is in the spring. So
congratulations.
Thank you.
It's like a master's on a master's.
Yeah, it really feels like I'm so excited to have that. That's because it feels like actually a bigger like endeavor and accolade than a master's. But yes, it's something to talk about because it's changed a little bit for you.
Oh, yeah. I feel like a lot of the RIE philosophy, RIE was devised by a woman named Magda Gerber, who is really amazing. And the sort of seminal book is Your Confident Baby. And it's all really interesting. And as an actor, someone who loves like human development, someone who actually, like the first time I sat in a RIE class where babies, really little babies, from 3 months all the way to 2 years old will just play freely as we, the parents, would be these loving witnesses. Of course, we would have to intervene if they were unsafe or struggling or whatever, but that actually rarely happens. Like, babies just want to hang out together and like just flop around with their cute little bodies. Like, just, it's just amazing. And the more we can allow that, just the more fun. I cried the first time I sat in a RIE class. I loved teaching a sort of RIE style class at Union Square Play, like loved. And I do think that I used that as a measuring stick against myself. You know, it is a new way of parenting, or an alternative way of parenting to the rest of the world, right? Most people are, putting their kids in like contraptions when they're younger so that they stay in place. That's not really a RIE advised strategy. Most people are
You saying you should share or don't take that, or be careful or don't go close, and here, play with this. Like, there's just a lot of things that
they're just a little more like
that are
involved, or there's a lot of feedback from the adult.
Which is, just to clarify, which is kind of not aligned with RIE. It's not like looked down on when you do that, but it's just not like part of the pillars of RIE. It's more like let the child lead, trust them. Like, they don't need much from you in directing them, and blah, blah, blah.
And it really is like such a poetic experience to just let a human being be,
right?
But I do think that, looking back at Magda's writing, of course, this is like an Eastern European woman who developed a system in an orphanage, and is writing, post World War II. There is such judgment on the everyday parent.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God.
That I adopted.
It's very antiquated.
Yeah.
The way that she delivers.
Yeah. And that a lot of the RIE practitioners deliver. And it can be so judgmental.
Yes.
Not just, and I'm not actually a judgmental person toward other mothers. It's sort of like the whole point of my podcast is that I really do believe that we all have our way, and that each of our ways are like divinely given and should be celebrated and amplified. And I use that judgment against myself, because there are parts of us that are part of society.
Yeah.
And in society, we say thank you. And in society, we have our children's boogers taken care of, and so, and I use that. Can we? And I use that example partially because it's the example that you used in our training at Union Square Play, where it's like, I would never, if you had a booger, I would never just take my right hand and just take it out of your face without saying, "Hey, you have a booger. Let me just help you out with that." I would give you a heads up.
We do it to our kids.
But we do that to our kids all the time. There are certain social structures that we still live,
of course,
with, and also programming that we live with, and needs for the children that aren't always met in that sort of idyllic framework.
Totally.
And especially after 2. And if I didn't introduce, and I didn't, clean up, that's my own problem, as you know. This part of the reason why I was like such a mess at Union Square Play is because I'm like, oh no, we had the best time, Jenny, and
we would come downstairs
everywhere, and
it was amazing to be like, all right, but the next class is waiting to come in. Like,
what are we gonna do? And I was like, oh, I don't know. What are we gonna do? There was paint everywhere.
But you're saying if you didn't implement
but if I didn't implement structure,
right?
If I didn't implement living in the world in a harmonious way, if I was and I am sort of punk rock in my heart, I want to say F you to everything and everyone all the time. But I have a kid,
Right.
and actually sometimes you don't want them to be so alternative. You just want them to go with the flow of life, you know?
Yeah, it's really such a good thing to talk about, I think. I think it's one of the things that I actually like thought a lot about before I even started what was Mo Mommies,
Mm-hmm.
the Instagram account that's now my name. It
Oh,
was because
R.I.P.
I know.
So good.
It was started really, and it's changed so much shape and form. But initially, it was like, I love this philosophy. I took this 7-day course after teaching in a more like quintessential generic cookie cutter preschool for the 6-7 years before that, and running those centers and not having known about RIE. And here I am, like, crying every day, like, not out of guilt, but just like I knew there was a different way, like putting these babies in like their little tubs and like trying to like talk about the days of the week. It just didn't ever feel right. It felt like more for the parents, or taking their hand and being like, here, do like a handprint, like cute, great, but like they're not learning. And so to learn about this like approach that's really like, why are we ignoring the baby, and why not ignoring, but like that's a human that can help us, that we can talk to, that we can talk through things, that we can give like joint attention objects. They don't understand what we're talking about, but we could say, it's sunny out, we're waking up. Like, why don't we think to do that? Or why don't we think to like allow them to just lay on a mat? Like, instead, just all these things made so much sense to me.
And it does make so much sense. I just want to say that I
Yeah.
want to underscore all of that, and it's so
Right.
beautiful.
And it was healing for me too, especially before becoming a mom, and while I was like required to now create what was like a new center, like that you can really raise babies and toddlers in such a magical way together
Truly.
by, making sure that their needs are met, that you talk to them, that they have like expectations, and that they can build all these really important things like resilience and patience, and just having this trust in them socially.
Also, just vocabulary. I have to say that with my son, like the benefits are so real.
Yeah.
But actually, the impact is so real.
Right.
And because I do see both sides to it, like his vocabulary, the way he interacts with the world, I can see how those first 2 years of like immersive RIE education from me was
Really
so impactful
valuable.
for him. And I mean, I feel like with Tess also, I mean, like she's like so
yeah.
independent and so artistic and like so in tune with her and maybe some of that is nature, but I do think that it allows, it's like putting salt in food. It's like it really brings out the flavor.
Right.
And I think that my own friction with watching another caregiver, watching nannies, was very hard for me because
Very hard.
it is their job to keep these kids safe. It's their job to
Totally.
teach them, and they have a totally different relationship. But I really struggled finding care,
Yeah.
which it's too much.
It felt
It's too
like
much pressure on the system.
Right. I will say, when you were saying, just to backtrack a little bit, like you see it in Tess with all these amazing things. To me, what stands out about it is that she's kind and that she's knows who she is. Like, I think that's how it's changed shape for me and like has continued to motivate me. But I do want to talk about like how I've adapted, because we are in the real world, and how
good.
that's why my Instagram page was going to start with like, put babies down and don't put things over their head and all this stuff. But then it became very real. Like, I cried after having Tess, who was colicky, and who at the time I had the privilege of having a baby nurse who I didn't think I would need. But when she came 3 days after I was home, I was like, please help. Like, even at the nursery, at the hospital, I was like, I'm supposed to be the baby whisperer. I work with infants and toddlers. They're like, some babies are just tough. So that was the baby I had.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know how to calm her. And then my baby nurse came in and did this whole like shushing and like dancing.
She's a professional.
Me and my mom still talk about it to this day, that she had this like whole thing. And I remember seeing,
I have the chills.
Yeah. And I remember seeing, and she was colicky and had reflux. I remember seeing Polly, who's a RIE associate, then at an event, like 4 months into postpartum. She's like, how are you? I was like, good, but I feel really like not Rye. And she's like, oh my goodness, like you're in survival. Throw Rye out the window. And I was like, this is like one of Magda's contemporaries, Magda, who created Rye. This is someone that you would think would be like, oh, like, yeah, you shouldn't be shushing them. And like, the point is, Rye, I don't know if it was meant that way for Magda, for me, has been like this framework that has helped me after she gave me that permission. Like, that I can always go back to, I don't know why you're crying and I wish I did, to my colicky baby. And that helps me feel like she reminding me this isn't like some like robotic contraption that I have to figure out, that we can like grow together, and that's actually the most respectful way to parent. And involving her from the start, right? So anytime I felt a conflict or friction with like those books, and it might be because I've like taken these courses and I'm in the training and I've met these associates and have had that same friction, that I've been like, I'm struggling. I believe
I
in
need a
this, but like this is
pacifier.
the real world. Oh yeah, both my girls pacifiers.
Right. Like I would not touch a pacifier. I would not touch the television.
Right.
Like,
But the point is, like, before you know about Rye, you're using it sort of as a plug. Once I knew, or not everybody, but I knew I sucked my thumb. They were in my womb sucking amniotic fluid. Like, it just made me, I feel, more knowledgeable of the intentions behind things. When without Rye, it's like we're just doing and buying and putting. And like, to me, it felt like I would have had no framework of like, why am I doing X, Y, and Z? And so that's what I was hoping my page did for people, that like, it's like, take and leave what you want. Like, this isn't like, I never wanted it to be preachy and be like, you have to do this. It would be like, this is what I know we should be doing, but this is really effing hard. This is kind of what I'm doing and what's like helped and worked. You know, I've hoped that's what it's been, and like what I wanted it to be, like this modern, realistic, you know, anyone can see themselves in this type of parenting. You don't have to be like hippy dippy. You don't have to be, you know, privileged, or like, I was hoping it could be like anyone can really lean into, I can talk to my baby. What has made you feel kind of like that you've had to leave it? Not leave it, but
I mean, I just think, you know,
not
I
for
also
me, but
see
just
that
in your
there
own.
are, you know, when you get into like public school, elementary, you know, you start to like see the different, you know, families and children, and you realize like, oh, some of the kids whose parents are really so sweet and kind and accepting of them are off the rails. That is when I realized, oh my God, this type of parenting has, in some cases, really damaged some of these, I wouldn't say damaged children, but they has not served these children. And those children, in many cases, are really unkind to their contemporaries. I watched bullying, and I watched a system of gentle leadership really
Like fail
25, 26 children at a time. I could cry just thinking about it.
So you felt like at the schools, this like approach to like gentle whatever
I
wasn't
think there's
working.
this idea, first of all, in schools, and I'm not talking
Like,
about,
not all schools, but so that's why I'm asking. Like, you felt like this school was really taking that approach of like,
I think there are several, many schools in this more progressive environment
right,
where if a child is lashing out, a child is going through something tough, and we have to offer
Got
them
it.
support. But if they're lashing out against another kid, that kid needs support.
yeah,
And I think we've lost our way, because maybe in the home, maybe.
maybe in the
If
home
my
it
kid
worked.
is
Oh,
throwing
God.
their breakfast on the floor and saying, I don't want these pancakes, I could say like, oh, buddy, did you like not sleep well last night? Maybe. And I really do mean maybe, because at some point that's not appropriate. and we can't act that way.
Of course, but that's not even what
But
should do.
Societally, I think this philosophy on the shadow side. Now, there are amazing things about it. I can
But
tell
it
you
gets
from my
lost in
experience.
translation, I think, is what we're seeing.
In
what
a
you're
larger
saying.
system,
Right.
when you're treating your child like, there's a joke when I talk about this with other parents. I live in Brooklyn, so we're all mushy gushy with our kids, okay? So, but there's this joke that like on the bus, we'll see kids having like a hard time, in quotes, okay? They're having a hard time, and you see the parents being like, "Oh, buddy," and the kid is like screaming,
Oh yeah, like that's
throwing
so
things, and you're
true.
like, "Oh, honey," and it's like, no, 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 no. This is a public place.
Yes.
There is decorum. Like, this is not appropriate. If you need to have your feelings, come over here to have some
Yes.
feelings on your own time.
But do you feel like honestly hearing you speak, like Magda, I don't even want to say this term, but would like be rolling over in her grave thinking that people believe that respectful parenting, first of all, RIE is 0 to 2 years old.
Of course.
Okay. But even then, respect isn't just love, right? She has so much that has taught me on loving is setting boundaries.
Yeah.
Is having a backbone with your child, is saying, I won't let you do that even with this mushy-gushy infant trying to pull out an outlet without a smile. I won't let you touch that. Not, I won't let you touch that. So she would like cringe that like there's a thrashing child who's actually, that's not safe and no boundaries appropriately being set. So for me, RIE actually a lot of times people believe is like very like strict. And so it's so like I think this is all like a lost in translation thing with the, of course, like new age, like gentle parenting. And I've even
I have no problem with RIE parenting, just for the
right,
record. But
just
I
this whole like,
the gentle
like
parenting
having a hard
movement,
time.
I think the gentle parenting movement has always been, girl, get it together. Has always been a slippery slope toward permissive parenting, particularly when we talk about conscious parenting and we're so self-reflective. And if we're so self-reflective, we're also dealing with our own traumas, right? My mom didn't give me chocolate for breakfast, so I'm going to give my kids chocolate for breakfast. Can happen when we're really overcorrecting.
Right. And overcompensating.
When we're overcompensating. And so I do think that the permissive parenting has become a flavor of gentle parenting.
Which is like a shame, like that it's felt that way. Like, you know, that it's kind of become synonymous with like respectful, intentional, conscious parenting. Like that's how I believe it to be, that I think it's become like this permissive, your child can get away with anything type of thing. I've actually like so not what I would have predicted myself before learning about this. I'm the strict one in the family, you know, because I know how much that's important. Of course, there's areas where I'm like babying and I need to get it together, but
or not. Like,
you know,
like we're falling asleep
Matt,
with our kids.
she's not
we started this conversation with my daughter sleeps in my bed and my husband sleeps in the guest room.
Exactly. Matt's playing musical beds, being like, "Are you going to move or this or that?" Yes, but there's places I absolutely have to reel it in. Matt has to reel it in. But overall, I believe it's really setting the right boundaries and still honoring like the feelings behind stuff. It's not like it's more, instead of you're in a timeout, your behavior is unacceptable, it's I'm not going to let you do that. You must be having a really hard time. You're not allowed to do that. If you need a second to sit here, I'm going to make sure your sister's okay, blah, blah, blah. So similarly, if I was a teacher and this child's like bullying, I won't let you do that. I'm going to make sure this child's okay first. And then like addressing more so that it doesn't happen again is why I believe in like exploring what's behind it. Because when you don't explore what's behind it, right, that child never heals with what they're dealing with and still keeps using this as a tool. They might stop in the moment or might stop out of fear. They're going to get suspended or this or their parent. Like it just to me doesn't feel productive when we ignore. Instead, it's now become like it's an excuse, right?
It's an excuse.
Like,
and it's
he's
also
having a
like
hard
he's
time.
having a hard time. And I think that he's having a hard time. There's a lot around, who's the one who's having a hard time, really, if there's a bully in the class. Sure, there's stuff going on at home.
Right.
I don't doubt that for a second.
But that doesn't
And
make it okay.
there are 25 other children
Yeah.
who do not deserve that spillover.
Totally.
And I will say that, like the idea, so I do think that like the teachers and this new way of interacting with children has been an overcorrection. And I look forward to it becoming a little bit more moderate.
Yes.
Because I am
It
dealing
doesn't
with
serve
elementary
anyone.
school children. And like, if there's a child who's hitting in the kindergarten class, I have no doubt that he's having a hard time and he's hitting my kid.
Of course.
But I will also say that another issue with this like more gentle parenting is that we're offering, and I was this person, but we're offering scripts to people who like ought to really check in with themselves.
Right. That's why I hate scripts. It's like we're missing the whole thing.
I would write articles for our beloved Mother Untitled, who I'm obsessed with and I love her so much. And I would just
Shout out
offer,
Neha.
oh God, Neha Roosh, buy the Power Pause, guys, and enjoy the genius. What's up with the frog in my throat? Just enjoy the
Do you
genius.
want water?
Yeah, I should have water. But I will say that the scripts, they're divorcing our mothers and fathers and caregivers from their inner knowing. And if we're not connected to ourselves, it is very hard to connect to anyone else, particularly a screaming child.
Right. Oh my God. I say this almost every episode, and like then I always edit it out because it's like everyone gets the point. But this podcast is called We Didn't Turn Out Okay solely because we can be okay, but when we think we're already okay, there's no learning, and it starts there, right? You need to first figure out like where you might have roadblocks before you're going to use any scripts, because they will not, it will feel inauthentic, right? So for instance, if like you get really triggered when your kid makes a mess, aka Matt Moness.
Oh my God, maybe he should have walked into my Union Square play class after. And I'd be like,
your wife
Jenny, it was great.
Right, and your wife is telling you that you can't shame them for that. You can, for your wife's sake, be like, okay, guys, and like ignore, you're exploring and making a mess, but inside and that energy around my kids, like he's
uncomfortable.
But when we explore, when I've taken him aside and been like, what's worst case scenario here? We have to clean it up. I always do, or they do too. When you really like delve into like this reflex that he's had, we can move on. Silly example, but it's just sort of like he's not okay there. Like messes should not impact him that much when he spills it on the floor and I hear him cursing and it's like a construction sounds in the kitchen. I come up, I'm like, what happened?
I think of Matt as like such a sweet guy.
Everyone
like
does,
that's
and
his
he
aggression.
is.
It's his aggression.
It's
like
his
comes out
kid,
with
like
spilling,
cute, charming, like totally. Like this is what he gets annoyed about. Absolutely.
Dan is like that with being late, and he also is like, I really lucked out with him in every way. And he hates being late, and he hates the kids being late. And I'm like, wow, you really messed up in marrying me. Like,
oh my God,
I feel so sad.
I'm uncomfortable because me and you are the same.
I feel so sad for him because I'm like, this isn't gonna. I have the chills. This isn't gonna change.
Right. And I forgot that I should have sat on that side because I have like a monster pimple here.
Oh, I have a rash on my eyeball.
Great.
It's not on my eyeball. It's on my eyelash.
We should swap now. Should we switch seats now?
Yeah, let's do it.
Guys, we're switching seats because we weren't on our good
We have
side.
blemishes.
Oh, but we shouldn't. No, we're setting a good example that this is us. Let us be us.
Oh, did you read the Mel Robbins book?
but I need to. But I would tell my girls, you don't have to be perfect, and it's something I'm really trying to really live for. Another story, but yes, blemishes and all, we're not switching.
I used to think I was a perfectionist, but I don't think I am. I actually don't think I am, and I'm really I'm so. I will say that being
in certain areas, maybe.
No, I think I'm a mess, and I think I'm just gonna
Me
own that.
too, but also a perfectionist mess.
I don't see you as a mess at all. I
Oh
think
my goodness.
Anyway, I think you're doing great. Go on.
Thank you. I think you're doing great.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm okay with my mess. You know,
Same.
like in the same way that where I'm like, oh, Dan, I'm not gonna not be late. Like it's just like not gonna happen. I'm okay with. Like I'm not hurting anyone except for Dan when I'm late. I actually.
But it's interesting. I had a guest on yesterday who said her son is a very like not triggered, but he gets very worried about being late. And I said, when we worry or we're triggered or like have a reaction to something, there's something attached to it, right? It's not just Dan doesn't like to be late. It's not like her son is just, I'm worried about being late. What is attached to that for them? So I said, you know, and similar to us when we get triggered by things. So I said for her son, when he says, are we going to be late? Are we going to be late? She can pause when it feels right and say, what do you think happens when we are late? Like, let's play out worst case scenario type of thing. And then you learn what it is. I learned this about Tess. She was always worried about being late. I learned it's like she really didn't like walking into the classroom and having everyone all eyes on her. That was what it was about for her.
Wow.
So for Dan, what is it around being late?
That, I mean, I think
people will see him or like he will feel like a bad parent. It's disrespectful. Like even
there are a lot. There are all those things. All of those things make absolute sense. Do you want to hear what's really interesting for me? So I realize in parenting that like I have sensory stuff. Okay, like I always knew I had ADHD. I have ADHD, but I was diagnosed in the 90s as a little girl. So like heavy.
Which I'm glad you were. Many people are.
I know. And I always knew that about myself. And now that I'm older, I'm starting to realize, this is a sensory thing. This morning, there was just like no part of me that could wash my hair. There was like no part of me. And it looks
great.
Thank you so much. And I recognize like, that feeling that my son feels where he like is screaming and he's just like, don't make me. I have agency to say like, I'm just like not going to wash my hair. I'm going to put it up. I'm going to deal with it. I'm going to work around it because like the idea of water,
right.
Like that oogie feeling is what he feels when I cut his nails. You know, like I have parenting really a lot like gave that to me. And with drop off, it's early in the morning. I'm not a morning person, and I just can't handle the crowds. And so I'm late to preserve that yucky feeling because I can't.
Like you do it purposely.
It is. It has become
like not purpose, like but just like you're.
But
like,
I realize why I need that. I need that. Because it's too much stimulation for me.
You're not trying to be on time. You're just trying to get there.
I'm trying to get there. And also, I don't really want to see anybody. Right. And it's not because I'm rude. And it's not because maybe I am rude. But like,
of course.
But in its like core, it's overstimulating for me. Right in the morning, it really is.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's why I'm late.
That's such a thing to explore and figure out, though. Like, even in your like to say to Dan, Matt refuses to divide and conquer. I talked about this with him when he was on the podcast. I was like, I grew up, my dad would drop us at the front of the movie theater and go park. I was like, you should do that. Why are we all going together to everything? Or like you go and check in at the restaurant. And like, I don't mean always send him or I'll go. Yeah. But like we can divide.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
And
you really are a very like you get shit done.
To me, I don't know if it's because I was raised like that in that dynamic, but I also just feel like, why are we all going to the garage? To me, it's like a big, we have to explore this now. So we explored it on the podcast.
Issue.
Yes. On the podcast, when he was a guest, we learned that he feels awkward and uncomfortable, like going to pick up the coffee. Or going to check in or this or that. I'm his like cushion. He's an only kid. And like I think he didn't have to like do that a lot. It makes him really what you're talking about for different reasons.
Totally.
It makes him uncomfortable. Maybe it's sensory overload. He's like, I don't like going into coffee places like that to pick up your coffee. I'm like, it's Starbucks.
They don't even notice what you're doing. Like they don't even care.
I'm like, places like that, like outside of our apartment. Anyway, yeah, like that there's, and I'm not making fun. This is all just, I love him to death.
Love Matt.
Love. But
Best
it
friend.
has helped me like have more sensitivity than like, why WTF, like go do it.
Yeah.
Now I've like said, you know, this place is like a little bit more low key, or you take the girls and I'll go pick, like it's helped me and him. And I feel like if Dan knew that with you.
He does now.
But he's still.
But it's also, it is still
Right.
not okay. Like the kids can't be late literally every day
because
for school.
mommy doesn't want to see
You don't
anyone.
understand. When I say late, I'm rolling up there. I will say that work, you know, I was at an event last night and I realized that I'm more comfortable working an event than I am being in the event. Like even if I'm at an event as an influencer, I feel like there's a purpose for me being there.
Yes.
Like, oh, you want me to
I feel the same.
You want me to like take a video of this? I'll, you know, like it focuses my brain on
Like,
I don't know. I was at a Purim party yesterday and like I was just like, I'm just supposed to be like talking to you. What am I gonna do? Like,
which is why the drop off might just come with its own like bag of like, I don't want to deal with that first thing in the morning.
I'm not good. I'm not good at it. It doesn't make me feel good. Like at the Purim party, I just was like, there's just like no conversation that's gonna feel good for me right now. Like I'm gonna walk away after every interaction
And be like,
questioning like, that was weird, you know.
well, which is why we
too
have
many
to
people all at once,
and too many like
too
things to
flowy.
analyze and
It's
stuff.
too flowy, too mushy. Like I need to like know my place.
Right. But I do think the let them would help us in this area a little bit. I feel that way too. But
let me.
I'm like you'd
an
rather
hour
just
late.
not talk.
I'm an hour late. No, I'm just like I would
Right.
rather be an hour late to school than like deal with like that onslaught of people.
But
right
I
in the
think if
morning.
you were like, what matters? Like, yes, it's annoying, like from a sensory perspective too. But I think it also, what I'm seeing is that it's a lot to navigate and like analyze and second guess, like in these conversations. And that's what I want to lift for you.
Oh,
like, just
great.
go, drop off, WTF, and leave.
And leave. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna try. Also because I'm recognizing in this conversation that there's avoidance also.
Right.
And that avoidance only heightens that
Exactly.
yucky
I was
feeling.
just going to say, it's like, I want you to jump into the fire, like look your worst on Monday.
No, I have no problem.
Oh, okay.
Here's the thing about my looks. I actually don't care
I
that
thought
I look
that
my
it was
worst.
about that maybe a little bit.
Oh, no. I'm
Okay.
tired.
You don't want to deal.
I don't want
Okay.
to. I'm tired.
Go in, and when people say, like, when I'm tired, I'll be like, hi, like, kind of like, I'm tired. Bye.
Right. I'm
You can
tired, and I'm
convey
also
that.
such a friendly person that when I'm not, people are very, you know, when
know.
you're like known for being friendly and
Yes.
funny and bubbly,
You, like,
and
kind
a
of don't have
performer,
permission to be anything else.
you know, I remember there was like a long time ago, Rosie O'Donnell said something where like she'll be walking down the street and people will be like, "Whoa, are you okay?" And she's just like, "I'm not." Like I'm just walking, and I was a child then, and I felt that because like people would always sort of, they look to me to lift their spirits as a
Yes.
performer, as a like,
That's a lot of pressure.
and
I
it's
get
just
it.
like I'm just tired.
Right. You want to be able to just like roll in and out. And that's like hard for Daniella Rabbani with the people around her to be able to do.
Right.
That's a real thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Which leads to the impact that we have. Sorry, I just want to loop this around because it's a little bit similar when we were putting pressure on our kids, right? Say thank you, say hi, bye, all this stuff. I want to just go back to that because it's a little bit related to this, but also you said before with Rye that you felt friction because like, yeah, your kids have to say hi. They have to say bye, this or that. Yes, similar to like you can't walk in and be like literal tunnel vision and ignore everybody. But I think it's okay to not like be forced into like interactions, right? Like at a young age. And that's like what I feel like you shouldn't feel friction about like when they're super young.
Yes.
But yes, now that they're 8, 5, 6, 7, I've also felt that friction. Like we just left a house.
It's time now.
Yeah.
It's time. I think there is a moment where it's like I looked at those nannies who are much more conservative, and who would say like, say thank you and say hello and how are you doing and answer them right now in the elevator. And I will say that having the perspective of being around a lot of children with really well-intentioned parents, there are a lot of children who do, and one of mine included, who do really have a lot of trouble speaking to adults,
Yeah.
ordering for themselves. So for me, at some point, I had to say, I look around and say, oh, that bit does not work for me. My children ought to order their pizza themselves and say thank you to the doorman, because we're lucky enough to have a doorman who opens the door for us.
Yes.
And I do think that like this idea that like, when they're one, no, don't say thank you because they can't speak. But
Right.
at some point, I started to look around and say, I'm not going to force them. I can giggle and say like, she's shy today. Bye, Chris, to the doorman. But every single day he's there early in the morning when it's cold, opening the door for us.
Yeah.
He deserves a thank you.
Absolutely. I mean, we
To the
could
bus
talk
driver.
about this for a long time, and I know we don't have endless time, but there's a few things there that modeling is huge. And so the idea of, from a young age, modeling that instead of focusing our attention on forcing that, I think has a really big power there. Like if every day you're walking with your kid and you stop and say to Chris, thank you so much. You've been standing here every day. Like you're, doing that shtick, that our kids see that. They're not going to copy that, but they'll start to notice, hey, oh, he is sitting. I think there's a power there too in our modeling, and that we can trust that. And then also saying, maybe not in the moment, which is what I've done with my girls. I noticed that we're so focused on getting out the door that we're not like saying good morning and this or that. Do you think we can tomorrow? And then the next day being like, good morning, Chris, I think is so different than say good morning. Say good morning.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel is kind of wrong with like the pressure that we put, right? That like these can be like growing conversations and things that you can navigate with your kid versus in those moments putting them on the spot and making them feel like a bad kid.
I think the real thing is what I heard was the tone and intention, because I think either way, the goal is to be kind, right? The goal is to be gracious. The goal is to be like a functioning member of society.
Right. And
be
why
able
do
to
we
drop off your kids on time? So we
and
don't
why
want
do we
to force
participate
them
in these pleasantries? Like, there's
like,
purpose.
Right. Like we don't want to force them, because that also leads to undue stress. Like, and maybe an adult who's an hour late to drop off because she felt forced into that situation. But here you are coaching me and saying, we do have to do some things that we don't like doing because you're my friend.
Right.
And at the end of the day,
approach
that's too much.
Great.
Right. And you're like, I'm your friend. And like, this is too much pressure on your marriage. Like, he's such a good guy. Like, help him out. I see you're struggling. And I do believe that you can do this, is what I believe we can do for our children, which is, you gotta say hi, babe. You gotta say thank you. You gotta say good morning.
Like, how can we make sure that what can we do so that you can do that type of thing?
Yeah.
Similar.
Right, so that you can meet society and actually feel comfortable.
Right.
Because a comfortable person is the person who can get up and say like, I'd like a pepperoni pizza.
Absolutely.
A comfortable person trusts the bus driver to say thank you so much, and like a comfortable person. We need to like,
we absolutely need to,
almost the same exact way that you coached me through. Like, I hear, like, you heard me all the way through. You totally get it. I totally get it. And
right. And
deserve
it's
to be
not
on time,
even like
and
a but,
it's
it's an and. Yeah. And this is also a reminder of this. Nell did Friday Star, which means like each Friday is a different kid and they get asked like 10 questions. You're not allowed to prepare them. The parents don't know what the questions are. And I got a call like the Monday after from her teachers, and they're like, Nell doesn't know her last name. And Nell doesn't know her birthday. And I said, Nell does know her last name and her birthday. And that came with a whole like conversation. I was just at the airport with her checking in, and they said, honey, what's your name? What's your full name? Who's your mom?
Wow.
You know, so I know that she does. I also know that she gets nervous speaking in front of people, even if she's giggling and performing, that she'll say she doesn't know rather than making everyone like pause. Where as we know in RIE, tarry time is like, I've allowed endless tarry time. For those who don't know, is like the amount of time it takes a kid to think before they can like formulate their thoughts into words. I've allowed that a lot. And like, you know, Tess and Matt are a little more impatient with it. And I think when everyone's watching you, you'd rather just say, I don't know.
Also,
for
when
her,
you're the youngest, pauses the same way. It's like,
yeah,
you're the youngest, it's like everyone's so many steps ahead all
right,
the time. So at some point, you're just like, I don't know is so much easier.
right. Or her
And,
big
like,
sister is used to
thinking.
diving in and saying it for her. And there,
Yeah.
so that's the way to explore. The point being that I do think that I can work on, you know, her being able to like speak more for herself and like not just lean into mommy will say and order for me and this or that. I think there is like this balance that you're hitting the nail on the head with.
Yeah. I think
That-
I do think
right.
that part of I without being rude to them.
Right.
They're not doing anything wrong. They're not trying to be rude. They definitely are not trying to be rude to Chris.
Right.
They actually really do appreciate
Right.
and like him a lot. It's the beginning of the day.
Right.
So it is something that we do have to remind children in the same way, by the way, unfortunately, the same way I'm a human being also, that you have to remind me. There are some things that are hard for us that we forget, and you got to get your kids on
Right.
time to school. Like, that's what we have to do, because that's the world we're living in.
You're saying something so amazing that I want to just leave people with, because I know that we do have to wrap up, which is I know that they love our doorman and appreciate him. So you can say to them at that age, guys, I know you love Chris. He's so funny, this or that. Don't we want him to know that? Even when it's hard, we're tired. Also, mommy, these are things, don't you want to be able to be on time even when it's hard and tired, right? Like,
Also, wouldn't I feel so good if
right.
I climbed that mountain and then I did it again?
Right. So approaching it that way instead of like, you gotta, which I do too, like, we gotta do this. They like are resistant to that, but like, this is why. And like, how can we do it in a way that lets Chris know that you appreciate and see him even when we're tired?
Yeah.
Is it like a fist pump or like,
Yeah.
hey, or whatever it is? But I feel like we're getting at that, like, this is about balance and like
Yes.
who our kids are.
And the long term.
Yes.
I think a lot of people who really invested a lot in RIE, and of course I was more extreme than you were actually, and so I do think when you are extreme in any way, there's gonna the shadow
Right.
sort of in and of itself. It's like there's ick to that,
Right.
but and so like we should always be, you know, considering balance from the start.
Yes.
You know, but I will say that there is that transition period once they are two.
Right. It's not like, okay,
Really
we throw
invested.
RIE out the door at
It's
two,
why
and like, how do we
It's
grow?
why I really appreciate Union Square Play and all of your resources. Actually, I think it's really and Charm Spring. I think we do need a bridge. Maybe this is your next business adventure. You're such a
Well, I'm hoping that like
but
accounts like mine can help be that bridge.
because they're not toddlers forever.
Right.
And even though they're cute, as we started off with, they are cute, they can handle the responsibility of being in society.
Yes.
And
it's not mean. And it's not
No,
like
it's not mean.
disrespectful.
Actually, it is mean to be. I have a friend who said, who would sort of, you know, poke fun at me, but she would say, like, you know, it actually is disrespectful to the other children,
Yeah.
and to the ecosystem of the family, and to the school when you've allowed yourself to be permissive.
Right. You're not setting your child up for success either. It's disrespectful to your child. You're not giving
and your own self.
Yeah.
Actually, it's not. It's you've gone all the way to the other side of
Yes.
ouchies.
Absolutely.
Right. So
Yes.
You know, I am an extreme, you know, when I get into something, I get into it all the way. So I think I understand that impulse.
Maybe that's where the perfectionism lies, that you're like, I'm not a
Oh,
perfectionist.
well, okay. So that's certainly where it lies. Like if I'm learning something, I mean, oh my God. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we're going to have to like explore all of that. I would love to do an episode on perfectionism with you, but I
Yeah.
know we're out of time. Like, just I think that's like something that we could talk endlessly, like every topic we always talk about.
I know.
But in the meantime, since we don't have endless time, can you tell people where they can get more of you and all these different endeavors that you have going on?
Thank you again for having me. Thank you for all the work you put out into
Oh my
this
goodness.
world.
Thank you for
so
being
much.
here and being my friend.
My God. Wow. You can find me at Daniella Rabbani on Instagram. You can find the Mom Curious podcast anywhere podcasts stream, and at Mom Curious on Instagram. And yeah, that's it.
Yiddish songstress.
Yiddish songstress.
Where can we find?
Well, you can. I'm doing a film about klezmer music and Yiddish, actually, which is something that I've been doing for almost 20 years all over the world. I get to sing and perform, and it's a really beautiful, you know, slice of life. Yeah, you can
So
you
we
can
can
follow.
stay tuned for
Yeah,
that.
you can follow updates on that on Instagram for sure. Yeah.
Great. Well, I love you.
I love
Thank you
you.
for being here. Thank you, everyone, for listening on We Didn't Turn Out Okay.